Hey everyone, I hope you're all well. You're listening to George the Medium here at Bridging Two Worlds podcast and YouTube series. I am so glad that you're back and happy to see you all again and know that the support that you've all been given is absolutely tremendous. So thank you so much for that. I have one of the most lovely people that I've ever met in my entire life. She's a darling dear friend of mine, and we actually met through our own journey and our own exploration of our mediumship. And we met on a kind of mentorship with an acclaimed medium, Mavis Patilla. And when we first met, Ingrid was not able to understand a word that I said with my fast talking Scottish accent. And so since then, I've learned to speak a lot slower so she can understand what I'm saying. So please, I'm going to welcome my beautiful friend, Ingrid Nijhuis. Ingrid, how are you?
Hi, George. Well, I'm okay. I'm fine. I hope you too. And I would like to start to say I'm very honored to be in your podcast. And it's delighted to see you shine like this.
Thank you so much. It's, do you know, the thing I think that it's really about wanting to help people have a really honest and truthful conversation about everything to do with mediumship and spirituality and paranormal and aliens. I find that there's a big conversation of people spreading a lot of possible and misinformation, and so people are really learning a lot of things that are not true, and a lot of people are doing it for views and likes and clicks. And really my focus on this journey is to help educate people, and I think we can learn by our own stories and by our own journeys. And I think that's why the most important thing for me is to have really honest conversations with people like you who can talk about, you know, you're in Holland, so your way of working is different from what it would be for me here in the UK. And equally like that, when I speak to my friends in America, their way of working and development and the type of clients that they have are very different. I deal with a lot of clients who are from really kind of underprivileged backgrounds and come from, you know, not a lot of wealth, and you know, their family has had to always struggle. And then I speak people in the States who come from a very affluent background and have lots of money, and so their life experience is very, very different. And you know, the price that people pay for a reading here in the UK is different in Holland and different in the US. And it's all about, you know, really having those conversations. So that's really what Bridging Two Worlds is about having these conversations. So let's just cover where you started in your own development, and please speak freely about how you've been since your opening or unfoldment into mediumship. When did that start for you?
Well, I believe it started around 20 years ago, that I was more conscious about things that happened and that I couldn't explain. Later on, I figured out that I was, as a child, also already in a way mediumistical, that I saw things and heard things, and but that came later on because I was not aware of that anymore. It must have been when I was younger, but I think it was closed in a way. And then later on, well, I know a lot of mediums also took the path of Reiki. So I started to learn Reiki one day. I knew already that I was very telepathic, I would say. And then when I started to do Reiki and all these treatments with people, I received things, I would say, and I couldn't explain everything. And then one day I certainly knew then, oh, okay, I feel a grandmother around me. So what is happening? And because of that, I was searching in Holland for, mentorship or someone who could teach me about this. And then my mediumship path started exploring for me and also unfolding myself as a medium then. And that started, I would say, around 12 years ago. And yeah, that's a wonderful journey, because it's also the journey of being in contact with the spirit world where our deceased loved ones are, but there are many, many other worlds I explored. And also, in a way, it's also my own personal and spiritual development, what started in a certain way.
So so I don't have any recollection of when I was a child of speaking to the spirit world, but my mum tells this wonderful story that basically until the age of 9, I was having all of these really intense experiences, having conversations with people that were not there, that people she couldn't see, giving information about people that, I would maybe meet with her, when we were out shopping. I'm a kid, I'm like 6 years of age, and, I'm able to say, it's that lady's dad is in the spirit world, so it was very, there was a lot happening. But she said by the time I got to around the age of 9, it kind of like lessened, and then all of a sudden that stopped. So I have no recollection of that though. Like, I don't remember any of that. It wasn't until I was 18 that, my great grandmother appeared at the base of my bed and kind of woken my gift. Do you remember, as a child, do you remember those things? And if so, what was that like?
No, I can't remember that I saw like ghosts when I was younger. I do remember that I felt in a certain way, another, I would say, it's not always the right word, but like entity around me. I've experienced that as a child, and also I knew that certain things would happen. And one of the first things I really knew there was something more was then, I would say, around maybe 20 years ago. In this, this time in the morning when you're thinking you are asleep, but you're really not asleep. You are in the middle of it, in between, I would say.
Yep.
And at that moment, there was a lady, and she spoke to me, and she told me her name, and also that she was here to announce to me that she would bring my grandmother to the spirit world. So that was a shock for me, because I had never heard speaking a spirit to me. And also this lady told me her name was Jacoba, and that's not a name I knew in my family or whatever. So I was wondering for a week what was happened. And then I asked my father, and he told me, yes, how do you know about Jacoba? Because she was my grandmother's best friend. And well, I told him, well, she was saying to me that she would bring my grandmother from Earth to the spirit world, and also that it would take some weeks or months, but that she should not be afraid. And it really took some months, but she announced it already to me. So that was for me very weird. And also in a way, you are going to think about all kind of stuff, and thinking what was happening, and was it a dream or whatever. I think a lot of people can recognize that also when they're going to start with mediumship, because sometimes we think, do we make things up? But that was not the case. And also my father told me that this Jacoba really lived and was a friend of my grandmother's, but also that she died a long time ago, many years before my grandmother died, because she had a huge age of 92.
Wow, okay. So isn't that interesting though, that there's a real piece of evidence that, and as mediums we seek evidence, we really seek having to find the most truthful part of the information in which we receive. And so there you've received this name that you've never heard, you didn't even know the woman existed. The woman is in the spirit world, she came forward, you've then, be also upsetting because you've been told that your grandmother is going to leave. But in a sense, I know now as mediums, we find it extremely comforting to know that, we know that people do not pass over by themselves. We know that people come and collective family and friends and loved ones draw close when people are passing away, which is quite often why when people are unwell, and you'll hear, my great grandmother done it. She had unfortunately she had lung cancer, and she would speak to her family, and she was in her bed, and we would be in the hallway listening, and she was having a conversation, because she would speak, she would wait for a response, and then she would respond to but we couldn't hear the response, and I wasn't anywhere open, because it never happened until after she passed away. So within that, though, do you find that from that moment, how quickly did things then start to unfold for you? Like, did you go and coast it straight away? Did you know where to go? I know that there's an amazing place in Holland, is Vanderhof, but was that like your first place to go? What was the next steps from after you kind of really, really were aware, okay, something's going on here?
Yeah, well, it took me some years, because I had some experiences also, and I told you at the beginning this Reiki, which I started, and then one day I experienced the grandmother from a client in the room, and then I told a friend, and he said, well, maybe you should go to the Swanenhof. And that was an eye-opener to be there. At first, it's a lovely place. And also there were all those mediums from England, I would say, mostly from England. And well, everything I heard over there, and I listened to all the stories, and also the first mentorship I took was with Nicole de Haas, but I took many more. So I met you. And well, this experience of feeling this first time this grandmother, and she was speaking to me and telling about her life story, that was weird in a way, and I didn't respond at all, because I was just listening and treating my client and thinking, oh my gosh, there's not one people, there are two, one is living and one is dead. And in a way, what I told you about this first experience, just this clear hearing, in a way, it's also comforting, because you're not alone when you're going to the spirit worlds, that your loved ones are there, and that they will be on your side when you're going over to this beautiful world we all came from.
So I think that the journey of many people who may be listening to this, whatever part of their development they're on, I think we can all relate to not knowing what's going on, kind of trying to find your way. And I would say very much so now, there's so much opportunity where people can develop, whether it be, like we do online teaching, or, whether it be in person or stuff. But I really feel like, going back to when I was 18, or maybe going back to, when you're saying at least 20 years ago, there was not really anywhere for people like you and I to go. Like there wasn't really Desvanahof from the Arthur Findlay College in the way that it is now. And there's, so many people around the world who are now teaching online, and there's some amazing teachers teaching online as well. I kind of feel great that people are able to do that now. But do you also find it worrying that that some people out there are, and I don't mean to bash anyone, but I know we have an honest conversation on this podcast where we want to have I suppose what I'm trying to say is I'm worried, and I wonder whether you're worried that there's teachers out there who are really teaching people some really dangerous things. There's a lot of people using Ouija boards, or people calling out to spirit and looking for anything because they want to be a medium, and some people are maybe just really good healers. Have you noticed that there's a lot of people that have taken to teaching that maybe aren't qualified, should I say?
Yeah, I believe there are some teachers, or maybe also people who take only one workshop for a weekend and think they are a medium. in a way, I believe also we are all medium mystical. We are all have this sixth sense, but it's like a sporter. you need to have a good training to be, very qualified to give a training or a mentorship or whatever. And there are also teachers who speak about all kinds of entities or dark energies or everything else, which I believe is not the case when you're working with the spirit world, because it's a world of love. And we all come from this huge, enormous field of love, which is, this is just the source of all. And I believe there are teachers who neglect that and also give some information that can be tricky, I would say. Because as a medium, you should be able to feel and to see when you're working with the spirit world, or when you're in your mind. Sometimes you can have this feeling you make it up, or is it from the spirit world? So you need to know what energies you're working with. Is it your own energy? Is it your mind energy? Is it the energy from the spirit world? And when I talk about the spirit world, it's not only the world of the deceased people. There are many, many worlds. And so also, do you know which world is knocking on your door and wants to work with you? So
I think that's a good
question. And to deepen out and to learn.
Yeah, I think you're right, because maybe there's another chance for us to have another conversation where we can go into the thought of these worlds within worlds, and that it's probably an interesting conversation that we could have, which would take up another full session of a podcast, because I think that there's so little known about that, and people will hear us say that and kind of roll their eyes and think, you're crazy for saying there's more worlds. And we have to allow the possibility of that thought. We're people who communicate with the spirit world, so we have to allow the thought that there could be aliens, that there is other worlds. We have to allow that to be a thought, because we need to journey to explore more. So changing the kind of dynamic, the flow slightly, what have you learned from your experiences as a medium?
Well, I have learned to see, I would say to see in a broad way, and to be open to everything what is possible. You can't imagine what is possible. And also to be more, in a way, to be more opening your heart, and to be more loving and kind person as a personal development. Probably a lot of people will say to me, well, you were always a lovely and kind person, but I know that it is different now. So in a way, you're exploring your own heart and to open your own heart, because the heart is the portal to make the connections. And it's more like, I can't imagine nowadays to live not without the spirit worlds. It's possible. And there is, if I wish, I can sit and make a contact with the spirit world. I'm not only asking for healing or something, but also to send healing. For nowadays, there is war on our planet again, and there are a lot of wars. But also for people who have healthy problems, etc. So you can send love and healing to them. And that is a very precious gift, I would say. We can all use that gift and learn that gift. So your life will change so much. It's not like it was before, when you explore the spirit world and explore yourself. So
that's beautiful. I think that's the finding, the whole core of what we do is about love. At the end of the day, evidence and, memories and, personal stories, at the end of it all, the depth of it and the core of it is love. You know, that's what these people in the spirit world want to do. They want to let the family know that they are still here, we live on, and that the love is all around us. And I think that the one biggest lesson that I would say that I've learned is possibly understanding how many people need to just know that their loved ones are okay.
Yeah.
Like that kind of feels like the most important thing I think we could ever do, is just to reassure people, because people pass in many, many different ways, whether it be, you know, through an accident, or whether it be, you know, a quick passing or an illness. We all wonder, were they all right at the end? You know, like we are they okay now? Like there's this worry that, but a lot of people don't take into account that the physical body feels the pain, but the soul doesn't feel the pain. You know, the soul carries the memory, but the physical body is the one that feels the pain. So I know that when we met on our workshop, our mentorship, we had the best laugh. I mean, we really, really did. Me and Ingrid clicked straight away. And I've been blessed enough to visit Ingrid many times and, you know, meet her wonderful family. And, you know, we've had some excellent experiences. Before we jump into the mentorship, I want to talk about the sound bath experiences that you've done, because I think that's something that not many people do. I see some people advertise sound baths, and it's one person sitting with a singing bowl. What I experienced with you, I will live with me forever, because I've never experienced anything like that. Now, I'm there helping Ingrid set up all of this equipment, having no idea what all of this equipment is going to do. And the journey that you took us on was unbelievable. I mean, people were snoring, people were out and gone, but they were still receiving that healing energy. Could you explain a little bit about what that is? Because I don't think many people really know what a true sound bath experience is. And how does that connect into mediumship and or healing? Like, you know, if that relates in some way, if you could speak to that also.
Yeah, this sound bath are always a wonderful experience. And it's also lovely to give them. Well, as you know, these singing bowls or these big gongs, they all have a frequency. And this frequency will be in this whole room, wherever you are, in the way we were in the church in the Swan, I remember. And then this whole room will be filled with this frequency, and also in a way there's also my energy, but also the spirit world energy, because I'm never work alone, and also the energy of the colleague Jan, where I worked with together. And this frequency will also be like a tremendous healing for everyone, because I always tell people, you can imagine when you have a singing bowl and it is filled with water, and you will give a hit to the singing bowl, then this water will move into the bowl. And we are all water. We are 70% of water. So all your cells will dance in a way on the frequency of this sound bath. So that's a very big healing experience. And some people, my own first experience was only with a CD with singing bowl frequency on it. And at that moment when I listened to it, I immediately had, you can experience a little bit like, I think it would be like a near-death experience, because you will leave your body. And that's a wonderful experience also, but also a weird experience. And that also triggered me to find out more about singing bowls. And also I knew this tremendous healing about the bowls, because my husband had seriously burned out many years ago. And he was just in a shop somewhere in Holland, and there was this small singing bowl, and he took the singing bowl and played a little bit for himself, and he said, oh my gosh, this is doing something with my heart. So you can imagine when you are in this church filled with this singing bowl experience, gongs, whatever we played on, the healing is tremendous.
Oh, I've never felt anything like it. I mean, I say this to people all the time. Like, it started with this tiny little thing that made just a little, almost like a cricket noise or something.
Also,
and as then it built, you know, the sound built and grew and just, like you're saying, it filled this church. And everyone's lying on the floor on mats with like your blankets and pillows. And we are the lucky ones because we just got to lie there for an hour and a half as you played all of this. And the feeling, the transformational feeling that I had after that, and I've never experienced anything like that. Like, I didn't own a singing bowl before that. I don't even really think I knew of a conversation of a singing bowl. Like, I just didn't know anyone that ever done anything like that. So it was never in my, it was never in my energy at all. So having that experience, obviously when I came home, I was like, I'm buying a singing bowl, you know? And like I messaged you the other day, I want to buy the set of these crystal singing bowls because the sound from them is beautiful. So looking at that, and then let's go jumping straight into developing as a medium, where we met in Manchester, in England, where we both were on the same journey of unfolding our mediumship. What did you take from that experience about your own journey, also being part of a group as people were growing into their mediumship? What did you find the most interesting about that?
Well, I believe when we are all together in a group like a mentorship, we all have this benefit from each other in learning. We see each other work, but also we can talk about this mediumship development and also see our strengths or sometimes maybe our weaknesses. And also, I believe also mediumship development can be sometimes hard and a struggle. And so we can lift up each other again. And also, sometimes you need to talk to someone who can understand what is happening to you and how you learn, and to stay on the path, I would say, because I believe many people who start this mediumship journey after 1 or maybe 2 years will think, oh no, I'm quitting this, I'm not going further.
Been there.
Many different reasons why, but one of the reasons can be that your teacher is not the right teacher for you, because you need someone who can lifting up is the word, can be more motivating for you, that you will experience more joy in the mediumship. Because I would say mediumship is only joy. It's joy. Yeah.
Well, it is, because we get to meet the family and friends and loved ones of people in the spirit world, and they're so excited to talk to their family. Yeah. Like, they are overjoyed. Oh gosh, yeah. And so we get to feel that excitement and that joy. And I think that's probably one of the most beautiful things. And when we were doing the mentorship, I think you're right. The learning from each other, as when we were demonstrating in front of the room, and you know, Mavis was going through points of positive critique, where she would say, you know, you do this and you do that, and you know that you can go deeper, and you missed an opportunity, you know. And I'll give people a really good example of that. I was at I think it may have been the first or the second weekend, and Mavis got me up to demonstrate. And I remember going, I actually remember this because I had a really good conversation with Joanne afterwards. And I remember reading for Joanne, and there was a lady that came through, and she spoke about jewellery for her family. And I remember saying, oh, you know, and you know, this lady, I'm sure it was a gran, said that there was jewellery given to the family. And then I moved on, and Mavis went, stop. go back to the jewellery. And I was like, okay, not really like, so I went back to the jewellery, and then I remember, like, it maybe says, ask her to show you the jewellery. So then there was 3 pieces of jewellery. So then maybe says, and who's it for? And then I checked with the gran, and then it was for the 3 daughters. And so, like, as Mavis was then critiquing me on the spot, I'm then checking with the spirit world the information, and then we're going through the information that way, which was absolutely wonderful. And then it's that point where I realized really about trusting the conversation with the spirit world, trusting in that the spirit world are there to give us that info. So looking at what you learned and the joy of the mentorship, and learning about each other and growing with each other and being able to speak to like-minded people, where are you at now within your mediumship journey? What has happened since that mentorship back, which was a good few years ago now, we were there. So
Yeah.
what would you say has been, where is Ingrid at now in her your own work?
Well, I believe this mediumship, when in England, where we went to Mavis, and at this moment you described, I can remember it. So yeah, you have done very, very well then.
Thank you.
And well, for me, it was one of the things that started for me in that journey was writing. Just the spirit will give me the words, I would say, and then I will write down everything. So in a way, basically, I'm writing a book for already many years of my experiences, and maybe it is possible in the future one day everybody can read it. But so I'm writing a lot, and also spirit is telling me a lot of things. But I also started to see more about different worlds. So that is in the beginning it's strange, and I developed also my trance more, and also I experienced just your growing and having trust and be a working medium. At the beginning, I was not a working medium in the way that I would ask money for it. I just was more on the level of practicing with each other in a circle, you know, and that is very important to start or to go to a circle for teaching and also for learning. So yeah, and eventually I started to teach also mediumship and also like intuitive mediumship. So yeah, a lot of things happened, and nowadays I would say I teach mediumship, and
Yeah.
I am a medium, and I give this medium mystical readings, but also this personal readings. You know, we call it psychic reading.
Yeah.
That a lot. So yeah, busy. It's growing.
It's good though that people can then see that through time you've grown. You know, your journey has been like for 20 years, mine has been 22 years. And so people kind of expect that they, like you said in the beginning, you would go in one course, you know, you do a weekend class, and then the next thing you're teaching. And so I think that there's also an excitement in new mediums, because we would be the same when we're new to this. You're so eager and so keen to do things, and within that, it's so exciting, but it's so dangerous as well, because I think that we could both look back at ourselves 15 years ago and say we were not ready then to teach. So we didn't teach. But what I'm saying is, you know, there's lots of people now who are running before they can walk, kind of thing. And I think that, like you said earlier about the right teacher, finding the right teacher, finding the right person who's going to do the right thing. And I feel that the right thing by you is what I mean by that. Now, I know that, you know, there's been many conversations I've had with other mediums that have started a course, paid a lot of money, and then realized, oh, this isn't for me. But what they have done is stuck it through to learn even the experience, rather than bow out and say, you know, this isn't for me, I'm not going to do this, you're not the right teacher for me. They continued along the journey, because even in that, there was a lesson. Even in that, there was a part to say, well, you know, that mentor wasn't for me, but I still learned about working with people, working on myself, looking at personal growth. Maybe, you know, working, you know, the way that I do, I teach people to speak properly and present properly and hold themselves well, because if they're going to be a working medium on the stage or on the platform, they have to be able to hold themselves well and project well. And a lot of mediums now don't have the empathy for other people. There's no care given. And what you spoke about all day today is love and caring for people. And I know that you're a wonderful healer as well as a medium. What has your family thought about Ingrid being a medium? Like, what was that journey like, speaking to your husband and saying, hey, you know, I can hear people in the spirit world? Like, where also your children grew up with that, so maybe your children accepted it easier. But what was it like to your family? You know, that's interesting.
Well, I would say it is more accepted to study Reiki or healing than mediumship. Fortunately, my husband was very open to it, and also my children are. Not in the case that they explore mediumship themselves, but they are very open to it and accept it. And they know it's part of me. I am a medium, and yeah, they know that my children and their friends know that I'm a healer and that I see dead people or I hear dead people. So that's weird. And sometimes they will probably say, well, we won't speak about our mother, what she's doing. But I would say it's accepted that I am a medium and that it's part of me. So I didn't lost any friends or something like that. You can hear sometimes stories about people, men and husband and wife, where one of the two can't accept the other path of going to mediumship and to walk the mediumship and to journey it, and then there will be like a conflict or a divorce or whatever, and that's very sad. But yeah, sometimes, well, I see our whole life is just learning and understanding ourselves, and people will cross our path. And also we met people who will be our teachers. And then in a way, we are each other's teachers.
Yeah.
And speaking about the teachers, I would say, when you are looking for a teacher in mediumship, what is important, I would say, is that the teacher can empower you. I believe that's the word in English, empower you, to give you strength and also motivate you, but also that you have an honest teacher who can say what he or she has experienced around you, and also your energy and your energy when you're working with the spirit world, etc. So honesty is also very important, and also humor, that there is a high energy when you work together, because that's also important. Yeah,
I think that's so important for people to remember, that, you know, when we work and we develop, we need the right kind of blend. I think aftercare is probably something that I know that we have always promoted, that any of the students that maybe we have worked with, or any students that, you know, you would hope to have in your life, that they understand that they can come to us at any point. It doesn't need to be during the mentorship. They can come to us at any point, a year or two down the line, and say, hey, I'm really struggling with X, Y, Z, or I had this really interesting reading. Could you give me some support and or advice on that? And I find that there's a lot of that doesn't happen in the mentorship world or the teaching world. There's many of them that will take your money, you will do your training, and then they will kind of let you go. And I find that that's probably something that I find quite upsetting for people, because people will go away from these workshops and mentorships and have questions later and need support, but then can't get support. So I always think it's really good to let people know that you should always make sure that you're having someone who's going to be with you along your journey, you know? And I think that's great that, you know, I've had many previous students, as have you, reaching out to say, hey, you know, I'm having a bit of a bother, or I found something strange. Can you talk, Ingrid, about maybe, if you can remember, one of the most interesting readings that you've ever had? Like, is there one story that sticks in your mind that you can remember? I know as mediums we don't retain what happens, but obviously when clients feed back to us, then we remember, because then it's the person telling us. Is there a time that you could speak of where you had a really interesting story that you done with a reading?
Yeah, I don't, what you're saying, I don't recall all the readings I have been given, so I need to think. But one of the things is, when I'm feeling the reading is going very well, is that when, in a way, it gives me the feeling that I am the spirit from the spirit world. So I am their father or their mother. And sometimes it's like I can see through their eyes, or I can feel with their hands, you know. So then you become this father or mother or brother, or who it is in the spirit world, who's is there to tell their story and to let their loved ones that they are here. And yeah, amazing stories. I don't know. I one of the things is that I can remember. Well, you can think about very exciting things, but I would say it's the love you feel from the spirit world, that you can bring this love to the people who are sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
And I believe that is the most beautiful thing. And also that you can describe this person in the spirit world as the person who they really were when they were here on earth. So, for instance, when you didn't know your mother very well, or maybe your father was abusing you or whatever, when the case would be that your father was abusing you in this life on earth, you can be not so happy that your father is there. Because you have bad memories of your father, but it can be that your father need to be here to say sorry to you, to say, can you forgive me, because I've done some things with you in my life on earth what was not appropriate. So, and then it is up to us as a medium to choose the right words to say, and also to be honest in a way, but also be careful what we say. And I believe that's also, in a way, we are going now, I believe a little bit, we're talking about the ethics of mediumship, because it's also very important. But yeah, I've brought so many people through with lovely, wonderful stories and a lot of love for them, for their families.
So let's talk about the ethics, because that's a really, really good thing to mention. I do a lot of demonstrations, as you know, and so in the beginning of all of my demonstrations, I tell people kind of the rules of what's going to happen, so that they're not rules as in, you know, you're kind of giving orders, but it's just an understanding of how the evening would work and what to expect when they're coming to an evening of mediumship with me. And obviously I work in places where there's alcohol involved, so people are drinking. You know, there's a very, very big difference between a spiritual church and an evening of mediumship at a venue, because the venue, they're having drinks, at the church they are not. So there's a completely different type of energy that you're working with there. And not every medium is able to work with people who are drinking alcohol. And that's very common here in the UK, that's what happens. I know that doesn't happen in Holland as much. So, but the ethics of a medium, and I'll be careful what I'm going to say because I don't want to, have the podcast or the YouTube video censored in any way. But I remember being told by a medium, a really, really good teacher, and what she had said was, she told a story that we have to choose our words wisely. And the way that she said was that she had been given a reading for someone, and the lady's son had been in an accident in a car, and there was something quite traumatic that had happened to his body. And so she was being made aware of what had happened, but she also was aware that she could not say what had happened because the mother of the son already knew what had went on. But that woman had said, I had to choose my words wisely because I don't want to have that mother relive those images in her mind. She doesn't need to relive that. As a medium, if we see it, sometimes we have to be careful. If someone sadly had taken their own life to the spirit world as well, it's not okay to describe the way that things happen because we may see it, but we have to choose our words wisely, and I feel like when you said the ethics is probably one of the most important things that is not discussed by many mediums that are working and many mentors that are teaching, that the delicacy of what we have to say, although we may see it, it's not about, the kind of glitz and glamour of looking so accurate. It's about being careful about the person who's in the room, whether it be in an audience or whether it be a client, how careful we have to be of what we are saying. So within the ethics side of things, Ingrid, and obviously in Holland, is there really at all anything where there's people having an evening of mediumship and there's alcohol involved?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm in there where I work on evenings, or I'm hiring a venue or whatever. There is no alcohol. No.
Yeah. So that's
quite a different with England. I don't know. I haven't experienced that in England because when I went to England, I only did demonstrations in churches, in spiritual churches. So, you said there's no alcohol involved. So.
Yeah, it is difficult. I'll be honest. It's not for the faint-hearted at all, because you have people not being respectful of the noise, and they're talking and they're chatting with their friends, and they're being really rude. And so there's a large majority of people who want to be there, and then there's people who have come along who think it's just a quote unquote psychic night. And so then they think to themselves, it's just, they're going to hear about having a baby. They're going to hear about their new boyfriend. They're going to hear about their new job. They want to hear those things. And then with the way that I work and the way that you work, it's about mediumship evidence. So I often say to people, do your research on mediums. If you're going to go and book a ticket to see someone, do your homework, make sure that you learn. What do you want people to take away from your experience, Ingrid? If you could say anything, what do you hope others will have learned from your experiences?
Well, I believe one of the things that is very important to know as a medium or someone where you're going to is telling that she or he is a medium, that normally a medium would do no future prediction. So I believe that's very important, although a medium, I could not say a medium can see in the future, but the spirit world is able to see things in the future that may be happening. But also then it's the ethic again, because when we are saying things to people, we plant seeds in their head, I would say. So be aware of that. Yeah, and I would say my whole mediumship experience made me a better person, I would say. And maybe a more kind and lovely and loving person also. Yeah, because we built together a whole new family. Like, you know, it's like homecoming.
Yeah,
Sometimes in Holland they say, well, it's like going into a hot tub because that's very cozy and it feels
yeah.
warm, etc. And I believe that's wonderful to be with likewise people, to understand that there are so many other worlds. And the other side is that we are all human. We need to perform also in this world. We need to work, we need to do all the things that humans and that we as a human need to do. And sometimes it can be, you know, I would say that being involved in mediumship is not always like a fluffy thing, you know. I believe the word was fluffy.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful world. It's a real world because the spirits we talk to are real persons. They are just like they were here on earth in your family and or your friends or maybe a colleague or whatever. They are real persons and they only are now, I would say, lost their body because our body is also in a way is creating limits for us when we are here.
So I think the glitz and glamour part about being a medium, I think that's probably one of the most important things that we maybe have said today, is that people think that being a medium, everything about it is all fluffy and, you know, your name is going to be in lights and you're going to be walking the road to Hollywood. And I think that the big misconception is that mediumship world is like that. Like, you know, as soon as you become a working medium, you're going to be the best medium that's ever lived. You know, your life is going to be amazing. You're going to be rich beyond your wildest dreams. And then do you not find that when you see these people living that life, their journey rises very quick, but it also falls very, very quick?
Yeah.
I see a lot of people like that.
We all have an ego, so also a lot of mediums maybe have an ego.
Yeah,
can be.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that anyone, if they're ever in this movement, that they have to constantly check their own ego. They have to look at themselves and say, okay, no, you know, like they really have to check themselves, because it's about learning about you, and you need people around you that's going to say, hey, you know, wait a minute, you know, that's like, yeah. And I will give you a really good example. I remember quite a number of years ago, I was getting a lot of names when I was working. And in Scotland, everyone in Scotland can reference Margaret, Mary, Jimmy, John, you know, and Elizabeth. Those are like extremely common names of people of an older generation, especially. So when you would do a demonstration and you would give a common name, so you would say, you know, I'd have Margaret and I'd have you, William here. People in the room would kind of roll their eyes thinking, well, who in Scotland's not going to have someone who connects to that name? So I just said to the spirit world, I said, oh, I'm done. I'm not giving names anymore. I'm not going to give any names. I'm completely done. You know, I was like, I'm not doing it. And I remember I had a lot of work coming up. And when I tried to connect with the spirit world, it was silence. There was nothing. And so I started to panic, and I'm like, you know, trying to go to my guides, and I'm like, I'm getting nothing. And yeah, people who don't know what it's like to be a medium won't understand, but it's kind of like taking your car to the car garage to have your engine fixed when you don't own a car. Like, it's kind of like that. It's like there's an emptiness, like there's a like, oh my God, what am I going to do, right? So it took me 4 weeks and I learned my lesson. It kind of just clicked one day. So I went back to the spirit world. I was a bit like Oliver Twist, like my begging bowl. Like I was like this, you know. And I remember saying to the spirit world, I understand the lesson. I was thinking of me. So I didn't realize it at the time, but my ego was in play, because my ego was then saying, I don't want to give Margaret, Mary, Jimmy, or John, because my ego is in play that I want to look the best that I can. But I didn't realize that at the time. So in my own mind and my own journey, I didn't take that into account. So anyway, when I went back to the spirit world, I said, I understand. If someone's mother is named Margaret, I'm going to give that person, because that person needs that. It's not what I need, it's about what that person needs. And all I said at that point was, if you give me Margaret or Mary or Jimmy or John, can you give me more about that person? So can you tell me Margaret is this person's mum, and she had 2 daughters, and she had a grandson that she loved, you know, things where there's more evidence that backs up the name. So actually I don't get a lot of names now, but it taught me a big lesson about ego.
Yeah, we need to be humble and not demanding the spirit world.
Yeah. And so have you learned up until this point, have you learned anything about Ingrid from what have you really got? I know you mentioned a little bit about like you, but what would you say Ingrid has learned about Ingrid through being a medium? Like what has it taught you as a person?
Yeah, I believe it's I'm not the same person anymore. So I'm not the same person anymore than I was before I was involved in mediumship. I believe also that you will, you know, when we have a kind of ego jacket or something, you know, your coat, you need to get rid of it and fold it and put it away.
Yeah.
And I believe that is also one of the things, you know, in a way we all, I also did, we all want to do things perfect, and we also want to be the perfect medium. Mm-hmm. And it's not possible to be the perfect medium. And we also learn when we are a child and when we are going to school to compare ourselves with others.
Sure.
Because we all want to have, you know, we will have, when you have a 10 in points, it's okay. And when you have a 5, it's not okay. So we are all driven to be the best in what we are going to do. And also society is expecting that from us. And I believe that's not the way we should bring up our children. And it's also not the way we need to live our lives.
Sure.
I believe that is, I was, when I was younger, also very driven. I wanted to be the best in everything, I would say. And I learned through mediumship that it is not necessary to take time and effort to be the best of whatever, because every soul on earth, every person is already the best he or she ever can be.
Yeah.
Because this spark we have in us comes from the best part there is. So, yeah. And we can't see this best part. A lot of people can't see it, but everybody, when they go inwards, they know they are part of this wonderful light in the universe. We are all this spark of light, and that spark is okay, and is very loving, and is the best. Because you are just as you should have been here on earth, you know.
Yeah.
And we all have free will to journey everything in life. And I believe for a soul, it is a wonderful journey to go to a mediumship course or mentorship or explore mediumship. You don't have to be and to become a medium if you don't want to be, but for your personal and spiritual development, it's a wonderful journey. and also for the healing part, not only the healing part for yourself, but also the healing part for the spirit world and the healing part for others. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ingrid, for being part of Bridging Two Worlds podcast. It has been a pleasure to speak to you. How can people find you if people are looking to get in contact with you or reach you on social media?
They can just type in my name, Ingrid Nijhuis, Dutch name. I'm currently working on a new website for Ingrid Nijhuis. .nl, I have to say.
Yeah.
So they can find me on that way, and also on social media.
So the spelling would be INGRIDNIGIHUIS. That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just for anyone that's looking to reach out to Ingrid, whether you're in Holland or whether you're around the world, and you want to follow what Ingrid is doing with her own journey and her teachings and any appointments, you can Google Ingrid's name and you will find her that way. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for being part of this today. It's been a joy and an absolute pleasure to speak to you. So take care, everyone, and until the next time, we'll see you soon on Bridging Two Worlds.
Yeah. Thank you, George.